Hi, boys and girls. This is Ms. Kathy. I'm so happy you've joined me today for another story just for you. Chapter 3, Trouble at the Lighthouse. Yo-Yo, Mrs. Vargas asked, please help me put this tablecloth on the picnic table. Okay, Mom, answered Yo-Yo, jumping up from where she'd been playing. With the tablecloth in place, Mr. Vargas set the camp stove at one end. Soon Mrs. Vargas had a pot of soup cooking. On the table were sandwiches, potato chips, and juice. The kids could be along pretty soon, said Mr. Vargas. Chris's stomach always seems to know when it's time to eat. Minutes later, Chris and Maria came up the path to the yurt. Is it time for lunch? Chris asked. I'm starved. Did your stomach tell you what time it was? Yo-Yo asked with a giggle. Mrs. Vargas smiled. Yes, we're about ready. Go wash your hands. The Vargas family sat down at the picnic table. After a blessing, they dug into bowls of tasty soup and yummy sandwiches. Anybody want to go to the beach after lunch? Mr. Vargas asked. I heard there's an old lighthouse by the jetty. Cool, exclaimed Chris. Can we go in it? I'm not sure, answered Mr. Vargas. The lighthouse is abandoned. It hasn't been used for years. Sounds exciting, said Chris. I wonder if I can climb to the top. I don't know, son, replied Mr. Vargas. We'll have to see how sturdy and safe it is. Old buildings can be dangerous. Chris rolled his eyes at Maria, then muttered, Dad's trying to wreck my fun before it even starts. I can tell when something isn't safe. Maria didn't answer. Instead, she got up from the picnic table and helped clear things off and put the food away. As she and Chris were waiting for the rest of the family to get back from the restroom, a park ranger walked by. Maria suddenly remembered the questions she wanted to ask. Excuse me, Mr. Park Ranger, she called. Hello, said the park ranger. Can I help you? Yes, my brother and I had a question. Actually, several. I'll see if I have an answer, said the park ranger, smiling. We were exploring around and found an old graveyard out in the woods. Do you know anything about it? Maria asked. Sure do. You found the old Simpson graveyard, said the park ranger. The Simpson family settled in this area back in the early 1800s. They used to own all this land where the park is. Their family home was near the graveyard, but it burnt down many years ago. The site is now overgrown. But why isn't there a sign telling people where it is? Asked Chris. There used to be, said the ranger, but we were having problems with people vandalizing the graveyard and leaving trash around, so we took the sign down. Oh, said Maria, that's too bad. She paused for a minute, trying to decide if she should tell the ranger that someone was cleaning up one of the graves. She decided not to, so she asked, Do you know anything about Charles Perkins? Perkins, the ranger repeated as he scratched his head. Seems like the Perkins family had something to do with the old lighthouse. In fact, one of the— Let's go, hollered Mr. Vargas from the car. Thanks for your help, said Maria. We gotta go. I wonder what he was going to say when Dad called us, asked Chris, as they headed toward the car. He was talking about the Perkins family. I don't know, said Maria. Maybe we can talk to him again. Is that the lighthouse? Asked Yo-Yo as the car pulled into the beach parking area. It sure is, said Mr. Vargas. Wow, exclaimed Chris as he opened the car door. This is awesome. It looks like it's about 90 years old. The lighthouse was a small, dirty, white, rectangle-shaped building built on a stone foundation. A 40-foot round tower was attached to the left side of the building. On top of the tower was a roofed lookout area and walkway where the giant light used to be. Chris hurried up the steep cement steps into the old lighthouse. Maria and Yo-Yo followed. Inside it was damp and dirty. A cold wind blew through the openings where windows used to be. Old boards and trash were piled in one corner, but what caught Chris's eye was the old rusty spiral stairs going up to the light tower. Hey, Maria, he called. Look at this. There are stairs going to the top. And they look old and ready to break, said Maria. Oh, they'd probably hold us. We don't weigh that much, said Chris. I don't know, said Maria. It doesn't look very safe. It stinks in here, said Yo-Yo as she tugged on Maria's sleeve. Let's go to the beach. Chris, we're going back outside. Are you coming? Asked Maria. In a minute, said Chris. I want to look around some more. Maybe I can find out more about that Perkins guy. Okay, said Maria, but don't do anything stupid. You know what Dad said. Yeah, right, muttered Chris after Maria and Yo-Yo left the lighthouse. You'd think I was still a baby. For a minute, he stood looking up into the dim lighthouse tower. It looked like the stairs spiraled up to the top to the walkway. I don't care what Dad says. I've just got to check this out, thought Chris. He looked quickly around the lighthouse. There was no one around. He could see Maria and Yo-Yo outside on the jetty watching a fishing boat come into port. Here's my chance, he said to himself. The first 3 steps were missing, so Chris grabbed the rusty railing to pull himself up. As he did, there was a clunking noise, and bits of rust fell off. Guess I'd better not stay on any of these steps too long, Chris thought. They might break off. About halfway up, several more stairs were missing, and Chris really stretched to make it across the gap. As he put all his weight down on the next step, he heard a noise. Then he felt the step give way. Frantically, Chris grabbed for the rusty railing just as the step broke off from the side. He was left with only a piece of metal just big enough for the toe of his shoe to rest on. "Help!" he yelled as he dangled from the rusty railing. "Somebody help!" But with the sound of the waves and wind, it seemed no one could hear him. Chris tried to grip the rusty metal tighter, but the weight of his body was pulling him down. He knew he couldn't hang on very much longer, and it was a long way down.
The story you've heard today is a chapter of the Shoebox Kids, Book 12, Mystery of the Abandoned Lighthouse, written by Suzanne Grant Perdue and Grant Perdue, edited and created by Jerry D. Thomas, and used with permission from the Pacific Press Publishing Association. If you're interested in any other books published by the Seventh-day Adventist Church, please visit AdventistBookCenter.com or call 1-800-765-6955.
This podcast is a production of the Carolina Conference of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.